to the question, are there near your home any people or organizations that organize the leisure of teenagers, were distributed in the following way. At least two facts are clear as a result of this opinion poll. Organization of leisure is still to a large extent the issue of the teenagers themselves, but not the task of state, society and parents. Adults consider that their children's leisure is not the sphere of their own responsibility and expect certain activities from the state. In this position, orientated in paternalistic values, adults substantially differ from teenagers in their views and orientations. In fact, one of the most important question for me is participation of people in physical activities and mass recreational sport in their leisure time. Regrettably, the situation in this sphere can be considered optimal now, as only 8 to 10% of population are actively involved in this leisure practice. According to present-day statistics, moreover, the number of women participants is still less, only a little, more than 5%. Studying the situation with mass sport, we can note some tendencies of the last decades. Since the 70s, the number of people taking up sport as a kind of leisure as well was increasing. It was caused by the development of infrastructure of sport, by the Olympic 80 in Moscow in particular, by the many level state system of physical education, like be ready for labor and defense, and also by stable motivation of a certain part of population to practice active form of leisure. Of course, one of the important factors in that period was the desire to use sport results as a mass participation of people in sport activities as an argument that the Soviet system had social advantages. That is why the authorities were interested in encouraging mass sport. At the same time, there was gradual growth of a tendency to take up sport passively as a spectator over active forms of pastime that was especially adverse in 1890s. This tendency was also a result of destruction of the state system, BGTO, which has been forming for several decades and in its turn had a great influence on the development of children, teenagers and youth into different forms of physical and educational practice. The characteristic of people's behavior in leisure space has always traditionally been, as it has been highlighted in different researches for many decades, the gap between respondents' verbal views on sport practice and their real participation in their practice. Almost anonymously acknowledging importance and replaced value of sport for health and interesting leisure. Only about 6 to 9% really practice sport. On the average, passive consumption of sport competition show mostly in television version is typical for 75–81% opinion poll participants. At the same time, if we turn to result of a recent expert polls, we can see some new forming tendencies in this sphere. For example, we question how does the number of people practicing physical activity change in your region was answered in the following way. The positive tendencies are especially characteristic for studying youth that is connected with the increase of compulsory hours for physical education and also for such social group as intelligent businessmen, disabled people. On the whole, we can say that the process of middle class formation in Russia is accompanied by the development of active leisure. One more particular among the tendencies of the fact decades is the constant decrease of the number of people practicing sport in industrial form and their transition to independent practice, jogging, morning exercise, and so on. It's caused by a number of reasons. The most important of them is the destruction of the system, gradual disappearance of organized physical exercise at work, and so on. First of all, it was connected with financial problem in new social economical conditions. According to the result of expert opinion pool, we can also point out constantly growing demand for recreational sport services with very little supply to satisfy it. The following answers were received to the question: how can you estimate the correlation of demand and supply in recreation activities in your region? In fact, such estimation of situation shows that low involvement of people and healthier leisure is not only the result of poor motivation, but also insufficient development of certain infrastructure. The process of commercialization in the sphere of leisure and recreation practices has become a very important and negative enough characteristic, leading to serious decrease of free and cheap services and the increase of charge for using sport facilities, sport equipment, services of coaches and instructors, and so on. All these factors, together with the problems of survival in the period of 1890s, made some even up organized institutional forms of physical culture and sport. Since the late 18th, the process of social differentiation has been a significant factor in the sphere of recreation and other leisure practices. The development of market has turned the level of personal income, and this is a factor for involvement or not involvement of various forms of recreational activities, which in their turn are becoming more and more important marks of social status, ambitions and prestige. Despite the low layer of women's participation in physical activities mentioned above, there has been constant development of specifically women's recreational practices in the market, such as shaping, aerobics, stretching, and so on. And the number of women visiting fitness clubs and sports centers is increasing, especially from financially successful group wives of businessmen, business ladies, employers of bank firms and offices. Thus, we have described contradictory and many-sided tendencies in the development of leisure space on the whole and mass physical culture in particular. As a president of the university which prepares specialists for this sphere, I should mention the answer that are given by universities of physical education to the situation described above, to new demands and interests of different groups of Russian population. On the other hand, on one hand, we try to add new elements into traditional training of specialists that have traditionally graduated from our university for 90 years, teachers of physical education for school and higher educational establishment. It goes without saying these specialists must know standard forms of physical exercise and sport practice, established for decades, but also must be able to offer new ones corresponding to the present-day interest of young people. For example, Eastern kind of wrestling, very popular in Russia, aerobics, and so on. On the other hand, side by side with traditional specialties, we have lately opened principally new specialties for our university. That is the answer to the new tendencies of modern life described above. Thank you for attention and best wishes for all.
Thank you very much, Professor. We have time for a number of hours that students still get in secondary school and at university level as a compulsory sport education. Is it clear, my question?
Could you repeat, please?
Well, you were talking about the fact that there were compulsory sport, physical education at secondary school, but also at the university level. So I was wondering, since you showed that there was a decrease in physical activity, but there was an increase in sports participation. And part of it was because of the fact that you had these compulsory courses. So what would be the number of hours that would be compulsory in secondary school, and what would be the number of practice hours that students get in university for physical education?
Thank you. I think necessary to speak about not about the dividing compulsory sport and others. I think necessary to speak about the new organized system for in Russia. I mean the system of physical education in the different stage. Middle school, primary school, secondary school, and high educational level. And this is why I was involved in the investigation of this process, because, as was mentioned, the old system was destroyed, and now we try to create new format, new standards. I can say new standards for the youth generation in different stages. And of course, for me, for example, as a president, it doesn't matter which how many compulsory sport and additional courses will be included in the program. It's, I think, should be connected with the interest of the different groups of young generation, and of course, the main task to provide the possibilities to all groups to take part in absolutely different physical activity.
Any other question?
You showed in your statistics that the 11 to 14-year-olds, they still do 50% sports, and then there's a big dropout for the 14 to 18-year-olds, only 30% sports. So I didn't quite understand why it's getting so much less, because if you look at the time spent with friends, it stays the same. So what is the cause of that?
Really, honestly speaking, I sometimes can't explain the result of other research. But you know, when the system transformed, and new vision of the people becoming. So I really can't.
So it's correlated with the transformation of the system?
I think so, yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Professor. Then